for a lot of college students, student debt can be a sad reality that has to be faced eventually. I mean, you've gone out to get an education, likely in the hopes of a more stable future. But with student debt, that can oftentimes feel like a zero-sum game. Well, it does not have to be this way. I mean, yeah, your debt is still there. I can't magically make it disappear. If you were like me and like many others who were holding out on the whole Biden student loan forgiveness thing, and you know what the best, that debt's not going anywhere magically. Basically, what I can do is give you a set of steps that'll give you a roadmap on how to best pay off your debt. This way, you can ideally be debt-free as soon as possible. Bonus tip, if you're in college and you're listening to this, then there's actually more ways that you can get ahead on your loan repayments today. I can show you what I did to get ahead on my payments when I was in college. Let's hop in. Step 1, quantify your debt. You want to really figure out what you're dealing with before you can properly attack those debts. But this isn't simply just getting the sum of all your student debt, because student debt is typically broken up into several different loans. And these loans can be government or private, and then within government, they could be subsidized and unsubsidized. And on top of that, each of these loans is going to have its own interest rate. So your student debt is most likely going to look like a list of balances and interest rates as opposed to just like one big number. This is the first step. You want to log into your loan provider, or providers plural, and you want to make this list. You should list each loan balance, you should list each interest rate, and you should also list if it's government or private, and then also within government if it's subsidized or unsubsidized. This way you really know what you're dealing with. And if you're in college, well, the list is most likely going to be incomplete, but that's okay. You can add to it with each subsequent year. And side note for those in college, that subsidized or unsubsidized bit is going to be especially important. And I'll explain that more in my next tip. Step 2, develop a game plan. So this is where you begin to understand which loans you're going to prioritize, paying first, second, etc. And like I said, it's a little different when you're in college versus not in college. In college, you don't have to make payments on any of your loans. So you could, if you want, get ahead and put all your focus on just one loan. On the other hand, 6 months after your graduation, that's when your loan deferral is up. So you're going to have to start making those minimum payments on all your loans. But that doesn't mean that you can't put extra focus and make extra payments on specific loans. So this is the game plan. It's making extra payments, and it's really going to come down to one of two strategies. And I'm actually going to recommend one in particular. So it's Debt Snowball and Debt Avalanche. Debt Snowball recommends for you to target the loans with the lowest balance first. This is because when you pay off those loans that have those low balances, obviously pretty quickly, you're going to feel that psychological motivation, and that's going to help you continue to pay off the next highest loan, etc. The strategy is great for people who need that motivation to stay on track. But if you do a little bit of math, you'll see that there is a strategy that is technically, mathematically superior. That's Debt Avalanche, and it recommends for you to target the debt with the highest interest rate first. Basically, by doing this, you're always going to ensure that you pay the least amount possible in interest, and therefore you're going to save the most money in the long run. So Debt Avalanche is always going to be a technically superior strategy to Debt Snowball. My only consideration is if you're someone who feels like you would appreciate that psychological motivation, then I would say to go with Debt Snowball. Overall though, my personal opinion is just to prioritize that highest interest rate debt first. But like we talked about, there's that nuance of once you graduate, you got to start making payments on all your loans. You can't really fully prioritize one. You can't really pick and choose, because if you miss a payment on a loan, then that might tank your credit score. So while technically the best methodology is to put every single penny into the highest interest rate debt, it's not always feasible. That's why I recommend for you to make that minimum payment on every single loan and then target an extra payment on that highest interest rate debt. So the one exception to the strategy is if you're still in college. Step 2.5, college game plan. So attacking your student debt while you're still in college is pretty rare, admittedly, but doing so is going to give you a massive leg up in the future. So a big advantage about still being in college is that a lot of your loans are currently accruing no interest. A couple exceptions are unsubsidized loans and private loans. So if you were looking to get ahead on student loan repayment and you're still in college and you're kind of looking for a way to start, my recommendation is to target those unsubsidized loans and the private loans first. Since these are the only loans that are currently accruing interest for you, it makes sense to hone in on them. And that's exactly what I did when I was in college. I had around like $5,000 in unsubsidized loans that I managed to pay off when I was in college. For my other loans, it really didn't matter whether I paid it off in college, right when I graduated, or 6 months after. And after I paid off those unsubsidized loans, I sort of shifted my focus away from loan repayment into other aspects of personal finance. So making an emergency fund and investing, stuff like that. So I feel like I'm in a pretty fortunate position to tell the story. That being said, I feel like a big reason as to why I'm in a fortunate position is because I had that diligence and work ethic to pay off those loans while I was in college. Step 3, surpass your monthly payment. No matter what financial situation you're in, I believe there's always ways that you can make it better. I know you're watching this because you want to understand not only how to pay off your loans, but how to do it faster. Well, really, a big aspect of that is buckling down and putting in consistent effort. No matter if you're in college and you haven't put a cent towards your loans, or you're a few years into your loan repayment, same philosophy applies. If you want to see change, you're gonna have to take action and contribute more than you already do. And this is accomplished by doing one of two things, either earning more money or saving more money. Obviously, the end result is the same thing. It's you paying off more than you did previously. So how are you gonna do it? That's really only something that you can decide, because it all depends on your unique set of circumstances and really what you feel most comfortable doing. Maybe right now you feel spread thin and you feel like working more hours would not be productive for your mental health, but maybe you know that you could tighten up your budget and commit to saving like $100 more every month. Another example, maybe you're in college and you're working part-time right now, but you know that you can get a job that pays a little bit more. Well, taking either step contributes to that same goal of saving more. Or my favorite strategy, which is just to do both. You could aim to switch jobs, and in the meantime, you could tighten up your budget a little bit. So play it by ear. I mean, everybody's different, and only you really know when you're overextending yourself. Remember that debt repayment can have a long time horizon. Sometimes it can take years, if not decades, to pay off your loans. So you want to make choices and changes that are a healthy challenge, but at the same time that are also sustainable. Overall, though, I'd recommend, if you can, to make more than the minimum payment on those loans. Not only is that going to make you debt-free faster, but in the meantime, it's also going to save you more money. Step number 4, student debt case study. So it's time to show off an example that's going to simulate what it's going to be like to pay off your debt. So we can play around with the numbers to see how it affects our length of repayment, how much interest we're going to pay, etc. So I Googled the average student debt in the US, and I got like 10 different answers. So we're going to settle on $50K in debt as our baseline. And in our example, let's say we're 22 years old and we're 6 months after graduation. So it's time to pay up. We have 5 loans, and they're a mix of government loans, private loans, subsidized, unsubsidized. But since we're out of college, we really can't pay just one loan at a time. Our deferral is up, which means that we have to start making payments on all of them. But that doesn't mean that we can't put extra focus, make extra payments on specific loans. So what's that gonna look like? Like I said earlier, there's a lot of different philosophies, but what I would recommend is to target paying off the highest interest rate debt first. That's a debt avalanche. And like I said, it's always gonna mathematically save you the most money. So if you look at the focus column, you'll see that this is exactly what we're doing. We're targeting the loan first, that is the highest interest rate, and then moving on down. So let's first set a baseline. I use a student loan calculator, and I set a 15-year repayment. This is what that looks like. So with 50K in loans, over the 15 years, you're actually gonna pay 80K in total. So 30K of that is just interest. And your monthly payment every single month is gonna be $448. And that's the sum of the monthly payments for all 5 loans. Now stick with me here, because what I did is essentially map out what that repayment is gonna look like, but for all 15 years. And I did it on a monthly basis, so it's 180 rows for 180 months. I hid a lot of those rows so that it would hopefully be more easy to see. What you're seeing right now is the first 5 months of repayment and the last 5 months. So there's 5 graphs, because 1 graph for each loan. And you can see at the end of the 15 years, the balance is more or less equals 0. I think if you add it up, it's like $37. Again, this is our base example. Our goal is to beat this base example by making extra payments. And we're gonna specifically put those payments, we're gonna target them on the highest interest rate loan. So let's see what happens when we add an extra $100 on that highest interest rate loan every single month. Loan number 1 has the highest interest rate, it's 11%. And our payment in the base example was $114. So now with the extra 100, we're gonna be paying $214 per month. And to be clear, for the other 4 loans, we're still making those regular minimum payments on them all along the way. So as the months progress, you're gonna see the balance of loan number 1 is gonna start to decrease. And by month 61, like 5 years in, you're gonna see that we're basically done with the loan. Now this next step is big. What we can do now is, now that loan number 1 is taken care of, that $214 that we were paying, it's now freed up. So we can allocate that to the next highest loan. So loan number 2 is gonna start to receive that $214 on top of the $119 that it was receiving all along. That's $333 total. Obviously, we're gonna take care of the little remaining balance that's left in loan number 1, but after that, that full $214 is gonna be applied to loan number 2. Let's go further. By month 94, you can see that loan number 2 is essentially paid off. That's great, because now we can do the same exact strategy all over again. We're gonna roll that payment that was going to loan number 2 into loan number 3. So now it's gonna be $378. And you can probably guess what's gonna happen for loans 3, 4, and 5. So here's what the remainder of all that repayment looks like for you to see. We're rolling these payments over, which allows us to focus on the next highest interest rate, the next highest interest rate, etc. So this is debt avalanche in action. After 125 months of making payments, you can see that we're done with our loans. And that's a full 4.5 years quicker than our base strategy, all from just making that extra $100 payment every month. And you can even see how much interest we save, which is like $12,000. So I urge you, if you're excited about paying off your loans sooner, see how much money you can reliably scrape together every single month, and then use that to target the highest interest rate loan. So that was my breakdown on student debt and how to properly structure your debt repayment so you can save the most time and money. I'm Ian the Sage, and I make personal finance content for college kids and for 20-somethings. So if you follow in that description, or if this content is just relevant for you, make sure to follow, make sure to subscribe. There's a lot more coming. See you on the next one.